And a lame brain. Ready to go. Now, something exciting as we get back from recess, something exciting, namely a feature we all look forward to, the explanation of the electronic voting, ladies and gentlemen. The electronic voting system assures both the fact that a member has voted and the confidentiality of his vote in the same way that the signed envelopes do. Each voting keypad has been encoded to assure that the proper distinctions are maintained, for instance, between Latin and Eastern bishops, diocesan bishops, and auxiliaries. The validity of the results will continue to be confirmed by the tellers, as usual, and if there are any difficulties with the system, we're prepared to substitute paper ballots immediately. Monsignor Jenkins, perhaps you could explain the mechanics of the system and give us a practice demonstration.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Earlier this afternoon, you should have picked up an electronic voting pad. Each time a vote is to be taken, you will see on the screens in the front of the room the wording of the action or the names of the candidates for whom you are voting. At the appropriate time to vote, Cardinal Dolan will ask if the body is prepared to vote. He will then verify that the action or election appearing on the screen is the same as the one for which he is calling the vote. Actions calling for a yes or no vote will always be recorded as 1 for yes and 2 for no. For the elections of committee chairmen, the names appear in alphabetical order with a corresponding number next to the names. Please press the number of the candidate for whom you want to vote. For example, press 1 to vote for Adams and 2 to vote for Smith. Important for this afternoon, for the CRS and clinic votes, because we are voting for more than one candidate, select your first choice, then wait for the number to disappear from the window, then make your next selection. Repeat this until you have voted for all of your selections. When voting for more than one candidate, you cannot change your vote once you have pressed a number. But on a yes or no vote and elections of committee chairman or president and vice president, if you wish to change your vote, press the correct number that you wanted to vote for, and that will automatically replace your incorrect number, provided the vote has not closed. The computer is programmed to recognize whether the remote unit was issued to a diocesan bishop or those equivalent to them in law or an auxiliary bishop. It also recognizes whether the member is of the Latin Church or of an Eastern Church. Please do not remove the voting pad from the room, and please leave the pads at your place at the end of the day. Individual names will not be associated with the vote, although the computer will record which bishops voted. We will now have 2 practice votes. On practice number 1, please indicate your status by voting 1 Latin Church diocesan bishop or equivalent in law, 2 Latin auxiliary bishop, 3 Eastern Church diocesan bishop or eparch or equivalent in law, and 4 Eastern auxiliary bishop. Diocesan and apostolic administrators should vote as a 1 or 3, depending on whether they are members of the Latin Church or an Eastern Church. Diocesan bishops who also serve as administrators of other dioceses have 1 vote only. Auxiliary bishops who serve as administrators of a diocese will vote as diocesan bishops, and again, the computer will know what category you are in. Please vote now. And there are the results, 220 votes cast. Good. Okay, for a second practice vote, this is a yes or no vote, and it's meant to assist us with planning for the celebration of the Eucharist later this week. The question is, for those bishops who will remain in Baltimore until Thursday of this week, would you like us to schedule a concelebrated celebration of Mass on Thursday morning? Please vote 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3 for not yet sure. Please vote now.
What do you want?
If you want to stay.
1 you want to know, 2 you don't, 3 you're not sure.
4 against the mass. 5, I want it.
You're 4 to 4.
5, I want a collection for the poor.
Very good. There are the results, and I think, Your Eminence, we are ready to proceed.
Good news. We got 2 important votes coming up, gentlemen. We got Catholic Relief Services, and we got our Catholic Legal Immigration Network. Bishop Kakanis is here, ready to give us the slate and the instructions. Maybe Bishop Garcia could make his way up to be ready to prepare us for the important Catholic Legal Immigration Network. Bishop Kakanis, take it away.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Could I make just 2 brief comments beforehand? First of all, as was mentioned in the presentation on CRS, Sean Callahan and Skylar Thorpe are going to be going to the Philippines tomorrow. We're grateful that Cardinal McCarrick has expressed an openness. He is, as you know, a member of the CRS board and also the chair of our CRS Foundation. So we're very grateful for Cardinal McCarrick's willingness to accept the request for a bishop to go to the Philippines, and he, I'm sure, will represent us well. Some people ask the question, could the collection for the Philippines, Vietnam, and Asia take place on the same Sunday and weekend, rather, of the campaign for Catholic Campaign for Human Development? The answer is no. We want either the collection for the Philippines to be on the 16th and 17th or on the 30th and 1st, because the 23rd and 24th is scheduled for the CCHD collection, and nothing should interfere with that, as was mentioned in Cardinal Dolan's letter. Your Eminence, we'd like to place a nomination for 3 places on the CRS board. The following names: Michael Barber, Bishop William Callahan, Bishop Frank Dwayne, Bishop Cirillo Flores, and Archbishop Joseph Tobin. Bishop Dwayne and Bishop Callahan have served 1 term. They are eligible for a 2nd term. The others would be applying for requesting their 1st term. So we would vote for 3 of these 5 individuals to serve a 3-year term on Catholic Relief Services Board.
You notice the, don't look at the paper ballot, it's wrong. Look at the ballot on the screen. Was that what you were going to bring up, Bishop? Yeah. So this is the accurate ballot here.
These are the numbers here, yeah.
The numbers. Let the voting begin for We ready to close the voting? Voting is closed. We have the white smoke. We want to announce that. So Bishop Callahan, Bishop Dwayne, and Bishop Flores are the, is that accurate? So Bishop Dwayne, number 1, Bishop Flores, or Bishop Callahan, number 2, and Bishop Flores, number 3. Bishop Kakanis, your understanding they would be the 3 members.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, 3 members. And Bishop Kakanis, Bishop Kakanis, is it my understanding that since your term is coterminous with that of the president, you are leaving as chairman of the board? Would you allow me to express gratitude to you for your exemplary leadership? Thank you very much. All right, Bishop Garcia, tell us about Clinic.
Thank you, Cardinal. My pleasure to introduce to all of you now our candidates for Catholic Legal Immigration Network Clinic. Several of these have served in the past on the Clinic board. Bishop Nicholas DeMarcio, Bishop of Brooklyn, myself, your humble servant, Bishop Mark Seitz, new to us, Bishop of El Paso, Bishop Jaime Soto, who has also served before on Clinic, Bishop of Sacramento, and lastly, Archbishop Thomas Wensky, also who has served on the board, Archbishop Wensky of Miami.
We're still waiting to get the names up there.
We ask you to vote for 2.
Once we have the names.
They don't have the right thing up there yet.
Our 2 Blessed Mothers.
Perhaps Archbishop Cordileone could make his way up, too, to be ready for the presentation. We ready?
Should we do the paper ballots?
Monsignor Jenkins, tell us about the paper ballot.
Yes, you should have a paper ballot as a backup in case the file for this
Where is
election, I'm assuming, John, is that the issue? So there's a white paper ballot.
White paper ballot, the first in your, all right? You should have it in your packets, unless the Chicago guys got them already, all right? All right? It's the white ballot, and Bishop Garcia, you said we vote for 2.
Vote for
correct?
2, please.
Pardon the mix-up, but please, and the tellers, you be ready. Maybe we can have a result by the end of the day. Vote for 2, please. Let the balloting begin.
And staff will pass by to pick those up if you pass them to the end.
Do we put it in the envelope?
Yes.
We put it in the envelope and we print
And you
and sign.
Yes, you have envelopes.
All right.
You'll put the ballot in the white envelope and then put your name and signature.
Are we paid?
Thank you, Cardinal.
Thank you, Bishop Garcia. We don't seal the envelope, correct?
I'm glad we have that.
All right. Here's another one there. Thank you, bishops, for your patience and understanding. Archbishop Cordileone, you and your committee, your subcommittee on the promotion and defense of marriage have done an excellent job, and you're going to give us a verbal update on your work, are you not? We're grateful for your leadership and for your input. Archbishop Cordileone, everybody.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Good afternoon, brother bishops. Just over 4 months ago, the Supreme Court rendered the most significant judicial decisions on marriage this country has ever experienced. By advancing marriage redefinition, the decisions harmed marriage and harmed our society. Almost immediately, negative effects of the court's rulings emerged at the federal, state, and local levels. At the same time, these decisions have renewed our determination to witness to the truth that marriage can only be the union of a man and a woman. We know that our teachings on marriage and family reflect the life-affirming message of the gospel, and we know that strengthening a marriage culture serves the common good of our country. As always, I am grateful for this time to update you on the work of the Subcommittee for the Promotion and Defense of Marriage and the current challenges and opportunities before us as a church and as a nation. Given the Supreme Court's decisions and our renewed efforts to defend marriage's unique meaning as the permanent, faithful, and fruitful union of one man and one woman, it's particularly important that we draw attention to this issue. Today, I will focus on the current legal landscape and the implications of the Court's decisions, closing with a brief update on the Spanish-language catechetical film on marriage. On the legal front, the Supreme Court's decision on the Federal Defense of Marriage Act has resulted in a variety of efforts to further redefine the institution of marriage. We are no doubt at a critical point in this country when it comes to the promotion and defense of marriage in the law. On June 26, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the federal definition of marriage found in DOMA is unconstitutional. The language of the decision is particularly disheartening, setting a troubling precedent for increasing efforts to redefine marriage. As a consequence of the decision, the federal government will have to recognize all so-called same-sex marriages from the 15 states and the District of Columbia where marriage has been redefined. The legal and practical implications are significant, implicating the more than 1,100 federal statutes in which marital status is a factor for determining rights, benefits, and privileges, all of which will now apply to those who are in a same-sex marriage. Because of this, the demise of DOMA's definition of marriage will be felt throughout the federal government. For instance, the State Department has indicated that the U.S. government will now recognize same-sex marriages performed in foreign countries where marriage has been redefined. Over time, the reach of the Court's ruling will likely extend to state marriage laws as well. In fact, the Supreme Court's DOMA decision is now being used to judicially challenge marriage laws in more than a dozen states that still recognize marriage as the union of one man and one woman. Regarding the California Proposition 8 case, the Supreme Court ruled that the sponsors of Proposition 8 did not have legal standing to defend the proposition in federal court, and consequently, the court did not rule on its constitutionality. This has had the effect of leaving in place the initial federal court decision that struck down Proposition 8. That single lower court opinion, combined with the state's refusal to defend the suit, has effectively redefined marriage in California. Increasingly, we are witnessing public officials place their own opinions above the laws they are charged to defend. In the area of marriage, this has happened in a striking way with DOMA, Proposition 8, and in other jurisdictions with respect to marriage laws. In response to the Supreme Court's decisions, renewed forms of collaboration in support of marriage and religious liberty have emerged. In particular, the subcommittee and other USCCB staff have collaborated with allied organizations for federal legislative action. An example is the Marriage and Religious Freedom Act that was introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives and hopefully will soon be introduced in the U.S. Senate. This act would protect religious liberty by barring the federal government from discriminating against persons who act upon their religiously motivated belief that marriage is the union of one man and one woman, or that sexual relations are properly reserved to such a marriage. Importantly, the act will protect a wide array of persons, including individuals and organizations, both for-profits and nonprofits, regardless of whether they are religiously affiliated. Thus, business owners as well as churches would be protected. Lastly, at the federal level, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, known as ENDA, was approved by the Senate last week. While ENDA proponents argue that it simply prevents employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, its effects go much farther. For example, ENDA-like laws have contributed to the erosion and redefinition of marriage at the state level. Further, we are witnessing how state and local laws that claim to simply protect persons on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity are having the effect of discriminating against those who hold a religious or moral conviction that marriage is the union of one man and one woman. For instance, in New Mexico, where marriage has not been redefined, the state Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the owners of a photography studio, notwithstanding their religious objection to same-sex unions, must photograph a same-sex commitment ceremony if they wish to remain in business. As one of the justices wrote, the owners of the company now are compelled by law to compromise the very religious beliefs that inspire their lives. In short, the justice continued, I would say it is the price of citizenship. At the state level, presently, 15 states and the District of Columbia have redefined marriage. In addition to the numerous judicial efforts underway to redefine state marriage laws after the Supreme Court's DOMA decision, we expect legislative and ballot initiative efforts to redefine marriage in a number of states in the coming year. Despite this climate, we must be mindful that 35 states still define marriage as the union of one man and one woman. Furthermore, of the 15 states that have redefined marriage, the voters in only 3 of those states actually gave their approval for marriage redefinition. I thank you, brother bishops, and especially those in areas where marriage has been redefined, for your continuing steadfast efforts to assist the faithful in recognizing the truth of marriage so that they might witness to that truth in the public square. The subcommittee's catechetical initiative, Marriage Unique for a Reason, is nearing its final video production phase over the next year, when its 2 final videos on marriage and the common good and marriage and religious liberty will be produced. I am pleased to share that the Spanish-language catechetical film, El matrimonio hecho para el amor y la vida, Marriage Made for Life and Love, is being prepared for release in early December. As you may recall, the video, in a telenovela-style format, presents a story based on a 50th wedding anniversary that introduces all 4 themes of the subcommittee's catechetical messaging: sexual difference and complementarity, the good of children, the common good, and religious liberty. Based on helpful feedback received from the body of bishops last year, an option for English subtitles has been included in the film, and the study guide has been put into a bilingual format. The film has received very positive reviews when shown to Spanish-speaking audiences. The subcommittee is hopeful it can be a useful tool to assist your efforts to promote and defend marriage. For further resources and updates, the website marriageuniqueforareason.org continues to be advanced. We are grateful for any input or recommendations on further resources that may be helpful for you in your sacred ministry. In closing, our Holy Father Pope Francis has spoken recently on the role of Christian families in the work of evangelization. He says, "The good news of the family is a very important part of evangelization, which true Christians can communicate to all by the witness of their lives. Truly Christian families are known by their fidelity, their patience, their openness to life, and by their respect for the elderly. The secret to this is the presence of Jesus in the family. Let us therefore propose to all people, with respect and courage, the beauty of marriage and the family illuminated by the gospel." As our Holy Father indicates, the witness of Christian families in embracing their service of communion and mission is ever more important and necessary today. In addition, Pope Francis's words serve as a great encouragement to continue to propose the good news of marriage and the family with love, courage, and respect for every person. Brother bishops, thank you for your vigilant efforts in safeguarding the great gift of marriage and family in your dioceses and eparchies, in encouraging strong and holy marriages and families, and in never ceasing to propose the beauty of marriage and family in the light of the gospel to all people. As the subcommittee seeks to assist you, your guidance and feedback are most welcome, encouraged, and appreciated. On behalf of the subcommittee as well as the Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth, thank you again for this opportunity to update you today. In Your Eminence, I would be happy to respond to any questions if time allows.
Thank you, Archbishop Cardileone, to you and your subcommittee for excellent work. Questions, observations, brothers, as I ask Cardinal O'Malley to come up. Bishop Baker, followed by Bishop Baker, please.
Bishop Estevez.
Followed by Bishop Estevez.
Thank you, Archbishop, for all your great work and your leadership in this area. And just a question, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act passed by the Senate last week, are there any exemptions for religious beliefs in that, and any exemptions for church institutions? And if not, I think that poses a major immediate problem.
There's a very narrow exemption for religious employers, but it's not, it's very narrow. Those that are doing specifically religious activity. Do you want to fill in more detail, Father Joseph? Okay, educational institutions and churches.
Bishop Estevez, anybody else?
Archbishop, it has been said that we have been very successful with the youth in promoting the respect of human life, the protection of the unborn, but painfully, it seems that that same youth that is so pro-life is not as convinced as to the marriage, the traditional marriage. Is there any catechesis oriented toward the youth so that evangelization can take place?
One thing I would strongly recommend is the Spanish film, that telenovela style. It is aimed especially for young people because it engages, it's a story about the grandparents are celebrating their 50th anniversary, and they have a conversation with their grandson who's cohabiting with his girlfriend. And they have a very in-depth conversation, and I think it can connect well with young people. That's one important catechetical aid. There's certain messaging I think we can leverage. For example, at the time of the Roe decision, everyone thought the whole country was going to go toward a pro-abortion way of thinking, and that all the young people were on board with that. But over time, when we saw the devastation that has been done, the young people have turned around. So we're in a similar moment with regard to marriage, and I think in time people will see the decimation of family life that's been going on for a long time, and this will continue to further it. So we can challenge them to think things through thoroughly as the generation before them did on the pro-life effort. And again, to focus the messaging on the good of children, always refocus back on children. I think they're not getting that message. I think they're open to that message from my own experience. I think if we can speak to them in that way to reflect upon what a child really needs, we can begin to think turn their thinking around. But we need to be very consistent with the messaging.
Who's there? Bishop Navarez? Then anybody else? Eduardo.
Archbishop, thank you so very much for your very needy ministry today. And as Bishop Papakri mentioned earlier, would that be something that would be worth pursuing? A difference of matrimony as opposed to marriage? Would that be one way of saying, well, we're proposing something different than civil society, for one option? And the second question is, the marriage of, the same sex partner marriage. They keep saying marriage equality, marriage equality, marriage equality. That's their slogan. And they're beating that long enough that it seems that people are getting on board. Can we come up with a slogan just like that would counteract and be our slogan to defend the sanctity of marriage?
First of all, your first point, that's certainly something our subcommittee can take into consideration in terms of our own word usage, and we can begin to focus more on using the word matrimony and holy matrimony. In the public square, though, when we're talking about the society as a whole, marriage might work better. So we will think about that. When it comes to that particular issue, of course, we always avoid that term marriage equality because we're talking about two different things. That we had that discussion earlier. So we always use the phrase marriage redefinition when we're talking about what they refer to as marriage equality. We speak about our regular, I don't think we have a handy little phrase like that. We speak about marriage as a union of one man and one woman. Marriage is the only institution that unites children to their parents and their parents to each other. We have phrases, but I don't think we've come up with like a two-word phrase to specifically identify that. Some people speak of traditional marriage, but it's not, I don't think, exactly what you're trying to get at.
How about God's way, man's way?
Thanks, Bishop. Anybody else? Bishop Rosazza and then Cardinal O'Malley, you want to come up?
Thank you. Archbishop, you and your committee, I'm always looking for arguments that would bolster our position in the secular world, so proceeding from the Bible and our religious tradition. The statement that recognizing same-sex marriage does harm to marriage in general, is there a way of showing that empirically? Or is it too soon to make such a study?
There's lots of social science data, in fact, going on even before this debate for 20 years about the consequences of fatherless families, the consequences of fatherlessness. So we're not narrowly aimed on this one issue. What we're trying to do is rebuild a marriage culture because unified family is best for the children. There's also other studies that have come out. About a year ago, the new family structure study out of the University of Texas came out. It studied children who were raised, who are now adults, but were raised in different types of family settings. There are about 6 or 7 or 8 different types of family settings: the biological parents, adoptive parents, single parents, same-sex parents. And in all the 20-some category study of education, behavioral problems, problems with crime and so forth, abuse in the family, in every category studied, the children raised by their biological married parents did better. So there is lots of social science data out there, but in pitching the argument, we can always begin with biology. That's what I do. It seems to be effective. Every child comes from a man and a woman. That's a biological fact. Right. Do we need an institution that unites the children, the child, to the man and the woman that brought them in the world or not? If we do, then it's marriage because there's no other institution that does that. So I would begin there and then build out the argument from there.
That's very good. Would there be a possibility of posting on your website the whatever access we might have to that study that you...
I think we could do that, couldn't we? Yeah. Yes, good idea. Thank you, Bishop Rosazza.
Thank you, Archbishop Cordileone. I understand you're going to lead us on the next issue, too, the call to prayer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cardinal O'Malley and Archbishop Laurie are up to back you up. Please.
Yes, I was asked to be the one of the three chairmen here to make this pitch. I'm grateful for this opportunity to do so, to give you an update on the call to prayer for life, marriage, and religious liberty. As you remember, we launched that last December, and now we are proposing to the body of bishops consideration for its extension beyond this November. In my update, I will provide a brief overview of the 3 following areas. First, what has been done thus far. Second, what the response has been. And third, considerations for extending the call to prayer. I will then be happy to address any questions before moving the action item. Allow me first to recognize and thank my brother bishops who are with me this afternoon and whose committees and staff have closely collaborated on the call to prayer. His Eminence Cardinal O'Malley, Chairman of the Committee on Pro-Life Activities, Bishop Kevin Rhodes, outgoing Chairman of the Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth, who is represented by Bishop Malone here behind me, Chair-elect, and Archbishop Laurie, Chairman of the Ad Hoc Committee for Religious Liberty. I'm also grateful to Bishop David Ricken, chairman of the Committee on Evangelization and Catechesis, and the staff who have provided helpful guidance along with other USCCB staff. As you may recall, it was last November 2012 when the spiritual strategy to advance a movement for life, marriage, and religious liberty was first shared with the body of bishops. This effort was promoted essentially as a call to prayer, penance, and sacrifice for the sake of renewing a culture of life, marriage, and religious liberty in our country. The time span of the call to prayer was initially set within this year of faith, starting on the Feast of the Holy Family, that was December 30th last year, and ending on the Feast of Christ the King, this coming November 24th. The call to prayer was proposed to serve two purposes. First, it would serve as a concrete initiative to respond to the call of the year of faith and encourage further prayer and sacrifice, and thus greater conformity with Christ. Second, it would serve as a strategy to encourage spiritual stamina and fortitude, and to build awareness of particular challenges facing the church and the nation, particularly in view of the HHS mandate and the Supreme Court decisions on marriage. The call to prayer has specifically promoted the following components: monthly Eucharistic holy hours, insofar as possible on the last Sunday of the month to connect it with the Feast of the Holy Family, daily rosary, special prayers of the faithful at Masses, fasting and abstinence from meat on Fridays, and the second observance of a fortnight for freedom last summer. When the call to prayer was launched last December, a web page was created and advanced as the year progressed. Prayers of the faithful and a template for a holy hour were made available, in addition to a variety of other resources and social media outreach. A pledge to fast component was also quickly developed, with the option for weekly text reminders and emails with weekly prayer intentions and catechetical educational reflections. In anticipation of and during the celebration of the second fortnight for freedom, the call to prayer promoted the fortnight and associated resources and events. Additionally, following Pope Francis's call to fasting and prayer for peace in Syria, the Middle East, and throughout the world, the call to prayer was utilized to continue promoting prayer and fasting for lasting peace. In the course of the last year, a fresh landing page for the call to prayer was created at usccb.org/pray. Web banners and graphics were developed for use by diocesan websites and others, and resources were also made available in Spanish. One of the most visible resources launched at the end of the summer to assist the continued promotion of the call to prayer was a short 90-second video. I would like to offer special thanks to the staff of Pro-Life Activities for their work on this resource. Again, the video and additional resources are available in both English and Spanish at the site on the screen. The response thus far from the laity and others to the call to prayer gives cause for encouragement. The web traction has been steady and growing. For example, on the USCCB social media site, communication staff indicated that the Friday fast reminders are one of the most popular, regularly scheduled, viewed items in general. Catholics across the country are currently signed up and participating in the weekly prayer activities through email, text messages, and social media. And diocesan staff are reporting that the call to prayer is also being welcomed at the diocesan and parish levels. What is perhaps most encouraging are the reports and stories shared of how the call to prayer is being received, implemented, and adapted in a variety of ways appropriate to the unique needs of a diocese, parish, or organization. Ultimately, this call to prayer, as promoted by our conference, is an invitation and encouragement. It takes root, however, and becomes alive in the response of the people of God through the initiative of the Holy Spirit, and certainly through the assistance and encouragement at the diocesan and parish levels. The fruits of a spiritual strategy and initiative like this are not easily measured by statistical standards, especially given the fact that prayer calls for time, patience, and perseverance. What we do know, in addition to the various forms of participation and the growing web traffic, is that staff has also received numerous requests from the field and the grassroots that these efforts continue. Much of the feedback we have received from diocesan directors has indicated a desire that the call to prayer continue. We have also received requests for more resources and promotion. But also particular gratitude has been expressed for the fact that this encouragement is coming specifically from the bishops. The strong support of the National Advisory Council certainly resonates with the feedback that has been received. In proposing an extension of the call to prayer beyond this November, our respective committees recognize the following considerations to be important. First, the favorable response from the field, from the grassroots, and as I had mentioned, from the National Advisory Council is encouraging. Second, a strength of the Call to Prayer initiative has been its simplicity and adaptability. The initiative is spiritual. It's a simple encouragement to prayer, penance, and sacrifice. Because of that, it can be easily adapted according to pressing needs, especially the specific weekly prayer intentions and reflections. As I noted earlier, Pope Francis's call to prayer and fasting for peace in Syria was integrated and expanded within the broader focus of the call to prayer. Other special intentions and special requests from our Holy Father can be similarly incorporated if the call to prayer is extended. Third, the call to prayer has exemplified the effective collaboration among committees and offices envisioned in the strategic reorganization and planning of the conference. If the body of bishops approves the extension, the spiritual strategy would continue in alignment with the 2013 to 2016 strategic plan. This would include the flexible adaptability, as I already indicated, as well as further integration of evangelization and catechesis and renewed communication and outreach efforts. For example, more regular catechesis on prayer and fasting as ways of being conformed to Christ and of growing in the holiness to which we are all called would be emphasized. Lastly, but most importantly, the need is evident, and we are only at the beginning. The work of the new evangelization requires prayer and ongoing conversion. Continued spiritual encouragement is necessary in the face of the many challenges before our people and culture today. Building on the good work already done, this initiative has great potential to make a significant impact in the hearts of the faithful if given the needed time and resources to continue. After all, this is an opportunity as Catholics to do what we do best, fast and pray. Brothers, I thank each one of you for your time and consideration today and for your faithful witness during these challenging days. Thank you as well for promoting and encouraging participation in the call to prayer over the last several months. Your Eminence, I understand that there is time reserved now for some discussion, so before moving the action item at your request, I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Good idea, Archbishop Cordileone. Thank you. Questions, observations, worries? I have Bishop Olmsted, followed by Bishop Soto.
Thank you very much, Archbishop Cordileone. An excellent presentation, and I very much support this. One other dimension I think that would be helpful, because we're already doing it in many ways on all these fronts, and that's ecumenical and interfaith action together. We see this especially in the 40 Days for Life, which has 2 campaigns now per year, and which is spread to, I think, 20 countries. And we had 4 of them this year and just finished this last Sunday. And it's a wonderful example of interfaith, especially ecumenical activity. We have the 2nd largest concentration of LDS Mormons in the world after Utah, and they're very much involved on these same issues. A large evangelical population are very much involved with it. Delighted that one of our 40 Days for Life was headed up by an evangelical. The others were headed up by Catholics. But this is great ecumenical action. So I agree with everything that you're saying. I want us to keep in mind how it's a great opportunity for ecumenical activity.
Thanks, Bishop Olmsted. Bishop Soto, followed by...
Might I suggest that with regards to the prayer, that rather than, well, along with it being focused on these very important issues of life, marriage, and religious liberty, that to the extent that we can actually focus that prayer on individuals or families, that would be better. And for one example, that if there was some way of having a website in dioceses where couples who are going to get married to actually, post their picture and say that these folks need our prayers, they need our fasting, they need us to really support them, that could then, I think, give a face to the issue as opposed to just it being an abstract concept.
Excellent idea. Certainly fits in with the adaptability of this effort.
Thank you, Bishop Soto. Well, Archbishop Cordileone, thank you to you and your committee. Might I suggest that it might be time for you to move the item, the action item?
Very good. Thank you, Your Eminence. On behalf of the collaborating committees and chairmen, I now move that the body of bishops approve that the call to prayer for life, marriage, and religious liberty continue beyond November 2013 with renewed communication and outreach.
We need a majority of the members present and voting. You've got your, we're going to try the machine again, okay? 1 is yes, 2 is no, 3 is abstain. Let the voting begin. You guys got your... At 3 is by 2 votes.
3.
Always been. You've always been a responsible citizen. Let the voting close, and we'll get the results here. There it is. Congratulations, Archbishop Cordileone and committee.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how to say this, but we're done. And we're early, so enjoy yourself, and we're back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Monsignor Jenkins, any housekeeping details before we go? Perhaps, Archbishop Kurtz, you could lead us in a glory be to the Father?
Absolutely. Let's together pray, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. And Mary, seat of wisdom.
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Vamos orar, tá?